My name is Susan Parker, and I'm 63 years old. I never thought my own daughter would betray me like this. She gave my credit card to her father-in-law, and told him, "Use it, my mom has plenty of money." When I overheard those words, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I realized at that moment that I wasn't just a mother anymore. I had become their bank. Their ATM. A resource to be used and depleted, not a human being to be loved and respected. Before I tell you how it all happened, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. Your support really means the world to me, more than you could possibly know. Knowing that someone out there is listening, that someone cares about what happened to me, it helps. It truly does. I can't believe this happened to me. I still wake up some mornings thinking it was all a nightmare, that I'll open my eyes and everything will be back to normal. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. Every painful, devastating moment of it was real. Let me take you back to the beginning, to help you understand how I ended up here. My life wasn't always like this. There was a time when I felt valued, when I felt strong, when I believed that the sacrifices I made mattered to the people I loved most. I've been a single mother for most of my adult life. Emily's father left when she was just 3 years old. 3 years old. She doesn't even remember him, and honestly, I've tried to forget him too. He walked out that door and never looked back, never sent a birthday card, never called to see how his daughter was doing. It was like we simply ceased to exist for him. So it was just Emily and me against the world. I worked 2 jobs for years, 2 jobs, just to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. During the day, I was a receptionist at a dental office, answering phones, scheduling appointments, and dealing with angry patients who didn't want to wait. Then at night, I cleaned offices downtown. I remember those nights so clearly, pushing that vacuum cleaner through empty corridors while the city lights blinked outside the windows. My feet would ache. My back would scream in pain. But I kept going because I had a little girl at home who needed me. I sacrificed everything for Emily. Everything. I didn't date because I didn't have time. I didn't buy myself new clothes because Emily needed school supplies. I didn't go out with friends because I was too exhausted, and besides, any extra money needed to go into savings for her college fund. Every decision I made, every choice, every sacrifice, it was all for her. I put Emily through college. Do you know how hard that was? Even with the scholarships she earned, there were still expenses. Books, housing, food, transportation. I took out loans. I worked extra hours. I sold my mother's jewelry, pieces that had been in our family for generations, because Emily needed a laptop for her classes. And I did it gladly. I did it with a smile on my face because that's what mothers do. We sacrifice. We give. We love unconditionally. After years of struggling, I finally managed to start my own small business, a little gift shop in our town. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I poured my heart into that shop, carefully selecting items I thought people would love, building relationships with customers, creating a warm, welcoming space. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had accomplished something for myself. Not just for Emily, but for me. That shop sustained us. It paid for Emily's wedding when she married Daniel 5 years ago. It helped them with the down payment on their first house. It paid for my grandson's nursery furniture. I was so proud to be able to help them, so grateful that I finally had the means to give my daughter the life I'd always dreamed she could have. 3 years ago, I retired and sold the business. After decades of working myself to the bone, I finally had a nest egg. It wasn't a fortune, nothing close to what wealthy people have, but it was enough. Enough for me to live comfortably, to not worry about every penny, to maybe even take a vacation someday. It was my security for old age, the reward for all those years of sacrifice and hard work. That money was supposed to be my safety net. After a lifetime of putting everyone else first, this was finally something for me. My cushion. My peace of mind. The thing that would keep me from being a burden to anyone in my old age. Emily seemed so proud of me when I sold the business. She threw me a little retirement party and invited friends and family. I remember her giving a toast that night, her eyes shining with tears as she talked about what an amazing mother I'd been, how I'd sacrificed everything for her, how she wanted to make sure my retirement years were filled with joy and relaxation. I cried. I actually cried because I felt so loved, so appreciated. That was about 2 years ago. That's when everything started to change, though I didn't see it at the time. I was too trusting. Too naive. Too blinded by my love for my daughter. Emily started calling me more often. At first, I was thrilled. As a mother, you always want your adult children to still need you, to still want to talk to you. She'd call and we'd chat about her day, about my grandson Tommy, about little things. Then the visits increased. She'd stop by my apartment with Tommy, and we'd have tea and cookies. It felt wonderful. I thought we were growing closer. Then came the suggestion. Emily sat me down one afternoon, holding my hands in hers, looking at me with such concern in her eyes. "Mom," she said, "I worry about you living alone. What if something happens? What if you fall, or get sick, and no one's there to help you?" I brushed off her concerns. I was 61 at the time, not ancient. I was healthy, active, perfectly capable of taking care of myself. But she persisted. She painted this beautiful picture of us living together, of me being able to see my grandson every day, of family dinners and movie nights and all of us under one roof. She made it sound like a dream. "Mom, we have that extra room," she said. "It's just sitting empty. You could move in with us. Think about it, you'd save money on rent, you'd have company, you wouldn't be lonely anymore. And Tommy would love having his grandmother right there. Plus, you could help out with him sometimes. It would be perfect." I hesitated at first. I valued my independence. I'd worked so hard to have my own space, my own life. But Emily kept mentioning how lonely I must be, how quiet my apartment was, how family should stick together. And Daniel, her husband, seemed supportive of the idea too. He'd always been polite to me, respectful, and called me Mom. So I agreed. I moved in with them 6 months after that conversation. I sold most of my furniture, packed up my little apartment, and moved into their spare bedroom. It was nice at first, really nice. I'd wake up to Tommy's laughter, have breakfast with the family, feel like I was part of something again instead of just a lonely widow rattling around an empty apartment. I helped out around the house because I wanted to contribute. I cooked dinner most nights. I did laundry. I cleaned. I babysat Tommy whenever Emily and Daniel wanted to go out. I didn't mind. I was happy to help. They were giving me a place to live, after all, and I wanted to pull my weight. But then the requests started. Small things at first. "Mom, could you pick up some groceries on your way home? Mom, could you cover the electric bill this month? We're a bit short. Mom, Tommy needs new shoes. Could you grab some when you're out?" I said yes every time. Of course I did. They were letting me live in their home. The least I could do was help out financially when I could. Besides, I had that nest egg from selling my business. I could afford it. The requests grew larger. A new washing machine when theirs broke. Expensive birthday presents for Tommy. A vacation for the family, "You'll come too, Mom, it'll be fun." Except I ended up paying for most of it. Car repairs. New furniture. Always something. I started to notice that my savings were depleting faster than I'd anticipated. But I pushed those worries aside. This was family. Family helps each other. And Emily was my daughter, my only child. How could I say no to her? Then there was Daniel's father, Mr. MacDonald's. Oh, Mr. MacDonald's. That man walked into every room like he owned it, like the rest of us were just privileged to be in his presence. He was a tall man, always impeccably dressed in expensive suits even when he was just visiting his son's house. He wore gold cufflinks and a watch that probably cost more than my car. His hair was silver and perfectly styled. He spoke with this booming, authoritative voice that made it clear he expected to be listened to and obeyed. Mr. MacDonald's had money, old money, family money. He owned properties, had investments, and drove a luxury car. He made sure everyone knew it too, dropping casual mentions of his golf club membership, his vacation home, his stock portfolio. Daniel had grown up with privilege, though you wouldn't necessarily know it from the modest house he and Emily lived in. I learned later that Mr. MacDonald's believed in making his son earn his own way while simultaneously reminding him constantly of everything Mr. MacDonald's had that Daniel didn't. From the first time I met Mr. MacDonald's, I sensed something off about him. He was polite to me, certainly. He called me Susan and shook my hand with a firm grip. But there was this look in his eyes, this calculating assessment, like he was measuring my worth and finding me wanting. Like I was somehow beneath him because I'd worked in shops and cleaned offices while he'd inherited wealth and multiplied it. He visited often after I moved in. Too often, in my opinion. He'd show up for dinner, for weekend visits, for holidays. And I couldn't help but notice how Daniel changed when his father was around. He became quieter, more deferential. He'd seek his father's approval on everything, his career choices, his parenting decisions, even his opinions on current events. It was like watching a grown man shrink back into an insecure child. Emily seemed to worship Mr. MacDonald's too. She'd hang on to his every word, laugh at his jokes even when they weren't funny, and serve him the best portions at dinner. "Father knows best," she'd say with a smile, and I'd feel this uncomfortable twist in my stomach. My daughter, the strong, independent woman I'd raised, was fawning over this pompous man. Mr. MacDonald's had opinions about everything, and he shared them freely whether anyone asked or not. He'd critique the way Emily and Daniel were raising Tommy. "The boy needs more discipline," he'd say. He'd comment on their financial decisions. "You should be investing more aggressively," he said. He'd even make remarks about me, though always couched in politeness. "Susan, you've certainly worked hard in your life. Such a different world from the one I grew up in." I tried to like him. I really did. He was my grandson's grandfather, after all. We were family, in a way. But something about him made my skin crawl. There was a coldness beneath the polished exterior, a sense that people were just objects to be used for his benefit. I should have paid more attention to the dynamic between Mr. MacDonald's and Daniel. I should have noticed how Mr. MacDonald's controlled things, how he manipulated situations to his advantage. But I was too focused on being a good mother, a good grandmother, a good houseguest. I kept my head down and my mouth shut, even when I saw things that bothered me. Emily started asking me to share my credit card information just in case of emergencies. She said it would be easier if she could grab something for me when she was out shopping, or if there was an emergency and I wasn't available. It seemed reasonable at the time. She was my daughter. I trusted her completely. So I gave her my credit card number. I even wrote down my PIN on a piece of paper and put it in the Kit Whitmore drawer where we kept important documents. "Just in case," I said, never imagining that just in case would become whenever she wanted. I started noticing charges on my statements that I didn't remember making. When I asked Emily about them, she'd always have an explanation. "Oh, Mom, remember I picked up those things for you?" Or, "That was when I grabbed Tommy's medicine and some groceries for you." The amounts weren't huge, $50 here, $80 there. I let it go. Maybe I was becoming forgetful. Maybe these were legitimate expenses that I'd authorized and simply forgotten about. But the charges kept increasing. $150 at a furniture store. $200 at a clothing boutique. $300 at an electronics store. When I asked Emily about these, her explanations became vague. "Oh, that was for household stuff we all needed," or "I thought you said it was okay?" I felt confused. Had I said it was okay? Was I losing my memory? I was only 63, not old enough for dementia, but the doubt crept in. Maybe this was the beginning of cognitive decline. Maybe I couldn't trust my own mind anymore. That's what they wanted me to think. I realize that now. They wanted me confused, uncertain, questioning myself. It's easier to manipulate someone who doesn't trust their own judgment. Mr. MacDonald started joining Daniel and Emily for their financial planning conversations. I'd hear them in the living room, voices low, discussing investments and expenses and strategies. They'd go quiet when I walked by, then resume their conversation in hushed tones once I'd passed. I told myself I was being paranoid. They were just planning their future. It was none of my business. But then I'd catch Mr. MacDonald's looking at me with this expression, satisfaction mixed with something else. Contempt, maybe? Like he knew something I didn't. Like there was a joke being told and I was the punchline. One evening, I overheard Mr. MacDonald's talking to Daniel in the study. "Your mother-in-law has quite a sum set aside," he said. "From that business sale. She's not getting any younger. That money would be better used now, invested properly, than sitting in her account losing value to inflation." My blood ran cold. How did he know about my savings? How much did I have? I'd never discussed my finances with him. Had Emily told him? Had she shown him my bank statements? I wanted to confront them, but I was afraid. Afraid of causing conflict, of being accused of eavesdropping, of being told I was overreacting. So I stayed silent. I kept my concerns to myself and tried to convince myself that everything was fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. But I didn't know how bad things truly were until that morning. That terrible, life-changing morning that I'll never forget as long as I live. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd been planning to go to the grocery store that afternoon. I was in my room, folding laundry, when I heard voices in the hallway outside my door. Emily and Mr. MacDonald's were talking. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, my door was slightly ajar, and they weren't making any effort to be quiet. "I really appreciate this, Emily," Mr. MacDonald's was saying. "The investment opportunity came up suddenly, and I need to move on today." "Of course, Father," Emily replied. Her voice had that eager-to-please tone she always used with him. "Whatever you need." "You're sure your mother won't mind?" he asked. And then, oh God, I can still hear her words echoing in my head, Emily laughed. She actually laughed. "Go ahead and use my mom's card," she said, so casually, like she was offering him a cup of coffee. "She won't notice. She has more than enough money anyway." I froze. Completely frozen. The shirt I'd been folding slipped from my hands and fell to the floor, but I couldn't move to pick it up. I stood there, paralyzed, as their footsteps moved away down the hall. "She won't notice. She has more than enough." Those words kept repeating in my mind like a terrible song I couldn't stop hearing. My daughter, my baby girl, whom I'd sacrificed everything for, was giving my credit card to her father-in-law and dismissing my concerns before they were even raised. Not asking my permission. Not even planning to tell me about it. Just using my money like it belonged to her. My hands started trembling. Then my legs. I had to sit down on my bed before I fell down. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. I felt hot and cold at the same time. Nauseous. Dizzy. Betrayed. That word kept coming back. Betrayed. My own daughter had betrayed me. How long has this been going on? How many times had they used my card without asking? How much of my money had they spent, had they stolen, while I smiled and played the grateful houseguest in their home? I thought about all the times I'd given Emily money when she asked. All the bills I'd paid, all the gifts I'd bought, all the expenses I'd covered. I'd thought I was helping my daughter, supporting my family. But that wasn't what was happening, was it? They'd been taking advantage of me. Using me. Seeing me not as a person, not as a mother and grandmother, but as a resource to be exploited. She won't notice. Those words cut deeper than anything else. As if I were too stupid, too senile, too out of it to keep track of my own finances. As if I didn't matter enough for them to even worry about me finding out. She has more than enough. Enough for what? For them to drain? For them to spend as they pleased? That money was mine. I'd earned it through decades of backbreaking work, through sacrifices they couldn't begin to imagine. It was my security, my safety net, my peace of mind for old age. And Emily was treating it like a community fund that she could access whenever she wanted. I sat on that bed for I don't know how long. Time seemed to stop. My mind was racing, replaying years of interactions, seeing them all through new eyes. All those times Emily had asked for money. All those charges on my card that I'd questioned and then dismissed. Mr. MacDonald's interest in my finances. The way they'd encouraged me to move in, framing it as concern for my well-being when really, what? They wanted easier access to my bank account? No. No, I couldn't believe that. Emily loved me. She was my daughter. There had to be some explanation, some misunderstanding. Maybe Mr. MacDonald's had manipulated her. Maybe she'd been pressured into this. Maybe. But even as I tried to make excuses for her, I heard her voice in my head again. That casual laugh. That dismissive tone. She won't notice. She has more than enough. Those weren't the words of someone being manipulated. Those were the words of someone who saw nothing wrong with what she was doing. Someone who felt entitled to my money. Someone who had so little respect for me that she didn't even feel the need to ask permission before handing my credit card to her father-in-law. The pain in my chest was physical. It literally hurts to breathe. This was worse than when Emily's father left. Worse than any hardship I'd faced as a single mother. Worse than the years of exhaustion and poverty and struggle. Because those things had been done to me by circumstances, by bad luck, by a man who'd never really loved me anyway. But this? This was my daughter. My baby. The person I loved more than anyone in the world. The reason I'd endured all those hardships in the first place. She'd betrayed me. And that betrayal hurt worse than anything I'd ever experienced. I don't know how long I sat there in shock. Eventually, the numbness started to wear off, replaced by something else. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Anger. It started as a small ember in the pit of my stomach, but it grew. It spread through my chest, up my throat, into my head until I felt like I was burning with it. How dare they? How dare she? I'd given Emily everything. Everything. I'd worked myself half to death to provide for her, to give her opportunities I'd never had, to ensure she had a better life than mine. I'd put her through college. I'd paid for her wedding. I'd helped with her house. I'd moved into her home and become the unpaid housekeeper, nanny, and apparently, ATM. And this was how she repaid me? By stealing from me? By laughing about it with her father-in-law? By treating me like I was too stupid or too insignificant to notice or care? The anger felt good. It felt powerful. It burned away the pain and the hurt and the confusion, leaving something clearer behind. Determination. Resolve. I stood up from the bed. My hands were still shaking, but not from shock anymore. From rage. From a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I needed to know. I needed to see exactly what they'd done, how much they'd taken, how long this had been going on. I grabbed my purse and found my phone, my fingers fumbling with the screen as I opened my banking app. The login screen appeared. I entered my password. Thankfully, I'd never shared that with anyone. The app loaded, showing my accounts. I clicked on my credit card first. Pending transaction, $3,847.52. Today's date. The merchant name was some investment firm I'd never heard of. $3,847. Almost $4,000. In one transaction. And Emily had authorized it without asking me, without even planning to tell me. I felt the room spin. I clicked through to my transaction history, scrolling back through the weeks and months. Charge after charge that I didn't remember authorizing. Some I recognized, the groceries and household items that Emily had vaguely explained away. But others? A men's clothing store, probably for Daniel. A high-end restaurant I'd never been to. Season tickets to some sports event. A jewelry store charges over $1,000. My savings account was next. I switched to it with growing dread. The balance that appeared on the screen made my stomach drop. It was half of what it had been when I moved in with them 18 months ago. 18 months. In a year and a half, they'd depleted half of my retirement savings. The money I'd worked my entire life to accumulate. The security I'd sacrificed everything for. Half of it was gone. I thought I might throw up. I actually had to run to my bathroom and lean over the toilet, dry heaving as waves of nausea crashed over me. When the feeling passed, I splashed cold water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed older than 63. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red and haunted. Her hands gripped the edge of the sink so hard her knuckles were white. "What are you going to do?" I whispered to my reflection. The woman in the mirror didn't answer. But I knew what I had to do. I had to act. I had to protect myself. I couldn't let this continue. I went back to my phone with shaking hands and called my bank's customer service number. It rang 3 times before someone answered. "Thank you for calling First National Bank, this is Marcus speaking. How can I help you today?" "I need to report unauthorized charges on my credit card," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat, controlled, like I was reading from a script. "I'd be happy to help you with that, ma'am. Can I have your name and account number, please?" I provided the information, then explained about the pending charge. Marcus was professional and sympathetic. He assured me the charge would be blocked and my card would be cancelled immediately. A new one would be sent to me within 7 business days. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I'd like to change all of my passwords and PINs. And I want to add security alerts for any transactions over $100. "Absolutely. I can help you with that right now." We went through the process. New passwords for my online banking. New PINs for my debit card and ATM access. Security alerts set up. By the time we finished, I felt slightly more in control. At least they couldn't make any more charges without me knowing immediately. But what now? That was the question that haunted me for the rest of that day. What did I do now? Confront Emily? Confront them all? Pack my bags and leave? Call the police and report theft? The last option made my chest tighten with pain. Report my own daughter to the police? Have her arrested? I couldn't. No matter what she'd done, she was still my child. I couldn't destroy her life like that, couldn't give my grandson a mother with a criminal record. But I couldn't stay here either. I couldn't keep living in this house, pretending everything was fine, waiting for them to drain the rest of my savings. I couldn't keep being their victim. I spent the rest of that day in my room, pretending I had a headache. Emily knocked once to ask if I needed anything, and I had to fight to keep my voice normal as I told her no, I just needed to rest. How could she sound so concerned, so caring, after what she'd done? How could she act like she loved me while she was stealing from me? That night, lying in my bed in the dark, I made lists in my head. Lists of all the times I'd given them money. All the charges I'd questioned and dismissed. All the moments when I'd felt uncomfortable or taken advantage of but had pushed those feelings aside because they were family. Family. That word had meant everything to me. It was why I'd sacrificed so much as a single mother. It was why I'd moved in here in the first place. It was why I'd kept saying yes every time they asked for money, why I'd ignored my dwindling bank balance, why I'd convinced myself that everything was fine. But family was supposed to be built on love and respect. Not exploitation. Not betrayal. Not theft. By the time the sun came up the next morning, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't stay here. I needed to leave, to reclaim my independence, to protect what was left of my savings. But I also needed answers. I needed to confront Emily, to hear her try to explain away what she'd done. I needed her to know that I knew that I wasn't the oblivious fool she apparently thought I was. But I was scared. Terrified, actually. What if she denied everything? What if she got angry and kicked me out with nowhere to go? What if Daniel and Mr. MacDonald's ganged up on me, tried to make me seem crazy or senile? What if this confrontation destroyed what was left of my relationship with my daughter forever? That last fear was the worst. Because despite everything, despite the theft and the lies and the betrayal, I still loved Emily. She was still my daughter. The thought of losing her completely made me want to curl up and never get out of bed again. But I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I couldn't let love blind me to what needed to be done. I'd spent my whole life putting other people first, staying quiet to keep the peace, accepting less than I deserved because I was afraid of conflict. Where had that gotten me? Here. Used and betrayed and almost broke at 63 years old with no home of my own and half my retirement savings gone. No. I was done being a victim. I was done being a doormat. I was done letting people take advantage of my love and my generosity. I got out of bed and sat down at the small desk in my room. I pulled out a notebook and started making a real plan. Practical steps. Things I could control. First, find somewhere else to live. I couldn't leave until I had somewhere to go. Second, secure my remaining finances. Make sure they couldn't access any more of my money. Third, decide what I wanted from a confrontation. What outcome was I hoping for? An apology? My money back? Just the satisfaction of letting them know I knew what they'd done? Fourth, actually leave. Pack my things and go. The first item on the list made my stomach clench with anxiety. Where could I go? I'd sold my apartment when I moved in here. I didn't have much income, just my modest retirement savings and Social Security. Could I afford to rent a place on my own? What if I couldn't find anything? Then I remembered Linda. Linda Morrison had been my friend for over 30 years. We'd met when our daughters were in elementary school together, and we'd stayed close over the years even as life pulled us in different directions. She was a widow too, and she'd been so supportive when I'd been struggling as a single mother. We'd had lunch together a few weeks ago, one of my rare outings away from the house. I'd been evasive when she'd asked me how things were going living with Emily and Daniel, giving vague positive answers because I was too embarrassed to admit that I felt uncomfortable, that I was starting to suspect something was wrong. But Linda had looked at me with those knowing eyes and said, "You know you can always talk to me, Susan. About anything." I picked up my phone and stared at her contact information for a long moment before I found the courage to call. It rang 4 times. Maybe she wouldn't answer. Maybe I should just hang up and... Susan. What a lovely surprise. How are you, dear? Linda's warm voice made my throat tighten with emotion. I'd been holding myself together so carefully, keeping all my pain and fear locked inside, but hearing a friendly voice, a genuine friend who cared about me as a person, not as a source of money, made all those locked-away feelings surge up. Linda, I said, and my voice cracked. Linda, I need help. Oh, sweetheart. Tell me what's wrong. And I did. I told her everything. About moving in with Emily, about the increasing requests for money, about the credit card charges, about what I'd overheard, about discovering how much of my savings was gone. It all poured out in a rush, words tumbling over each other as months of suppressed worry and confusion finally found an outlet. Linda listened without interrupting. When I finally ran out of words and fell silent, sniffling and wiping at my tears, she was quiet for a moment. Susan, she said finally, I am so angry on your behalf right now. What they've done is not just wrong, it's cruel. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve any of this. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I need to leave, but I don't have anywhere to go. I know it's a lot to ask, but... Stop right there, Linda interrupted. You remember that guest house behind my property? The one that used to be a garage before Henry converted it? Yes, but... It's empty. It has been since my nephew moved out last year. It's small, just a studio, really, but it has everything you need. Kit Whitmore, bathroom, plenty of space. You can stay there as long as you want. I won't even charge you rent. Consider it a gift from one friend to another who's seen enough hardship in her life. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face, but they were different tears now. Relief. Gratitude. Hope. Linda, I finally managed. I can't let you do that for free. I can pay rent. I want to pay rent. We'll work something out that's fair for both of us, she said. But right now, that's not what's important. What's important is getting you out of that house and somewhere safe. When do you want to move? Soon, I said. As soon as possible. But I need to handle some things first. I need to secure my money, and I need to confront them. I need Emily to know that I know what she's done. Are you sure that's wise? Linda asked gently. These people have already shown they're willing to steal from you. They might get aggressive or try to manipulate you into staying. I know. But I can't just sneak away without saying anything. I need closure. I need her to look me in the eye and try to justify what she's done. Linda sighed. I understand. But promise me you'll be careful. And if things get ugly, you call me immediately and I'll come get you. I promise. We talked for a while longer, working out the logistics. Linda would have the guest house cleaned and ready for me. I would start packing my essentials quietly, things I could take without anyone noticing. When I was ready to move, Linda would come with her car to help me load everything up. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. A sense that maybe, just maybe, I could survive this. That I wasn't trapped. That I had options and people who cared about me as more than just a source of money. Over the next few days, I quietly prepared. I packed things in small amounts, filling a suitcase and some boxes that I hid in the back of my closet. I gathered my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, insurance papers. I made copies of my bank statements showing all the unauthorized charges. I even took screenshots of my text conversations with Emily where she'd asked for money, just in case I needed evidence later. I went to the bank in person and spoke with the manager. I explained the situation, simplified, just saying that family members had been making unauthorized charges. I wanted to make sure my accounts were completely secure, that no one but me could access them, that every transaction would require my explicit approval. The manager was helpful and sympathetic. She set up additional security measures and gave me her direct contact information. "If you need anything else," she said, "or if you decide you want to report this to the authorities, please let me know. What happened to you is financial abuse, and you have legal options." Financial abuse. I'd never thought of it in those terms before, but hearing her say it made it real. I wasn't being oversensitive. I wasn't overreacting. What they'd done to me had a name. It was abuse. I also contacted a lawyer, a family friend who'd helped me with the business sale. I didn't want to sue anyone, but I wanted to know my options. What could Emily be charged with if I decided to report her? What were my rights? What would happen if they tried to claim I'd given them permission or that I was mentally unfit to manage my own finances? The lawyer, David Whitmore, gave it to me straight. "If you can prove they made unauthorized charges, that's credit card fraud. It's a crime. But prosecuting your own daughter would be emotionally devastating and might not even result in recovering your money. It would mostly go to legal fees. Your best bet is to secure your finances, remove yourself from their access, and try to negotiate restitution if possible." He also warned me that Mr. McDonald's, with his money and connections, might try to make things difficult for me. "Men like that don't like losing control or being exposed," David said. "Be prepared for him to fight back. Document everything. Every conversation, every interaction, every threat or manipulation. You might need it." That conversation scared me, but it also steeled my resolve. I wasn't going to let Mr. McDonald's intimidate me. I wasn't going to let any of them make me feel small or stupid or like I deserved what had happened. By the end of the week, I was ready. I had a place to go. My finances were secured. My belongings were packed. All that was left was the confrontation itself. But I was terrified. My hands shook every time I thought about actually facing Emily, about saying the words out loud. What if my courage failed me? What if I started crying and couldn't finish? What if she manipulated me into backing down? I decided to wait for the right moment. And then, that moment came sooner than I expected. I was in the kitchen making tea one afternoon when I heard Emily's voice in the hallway. She was on the phone with someone, and she wasn't bothering to keep her voice down. I know, she was saying. She called the bank and canceled her card. Father was furious. The investment opportunity fell through because of her. My hand froze on the kettle. She was talking about me. About the charge I'd blocked. "No, I don't think she suspects anything," Emily continued. "She's just being paranoid about her finances. You know how old people get. She probably saw the charge and panicked. Old people. Paranoid. Like I was some senile fool who couldn't manage my own money." "We'll just have to be more careful," Emily said. "Father says we need to work on getting power of attorney. Then we won't have to worry about her interfering anymore." Power of attorney. They wanted to take legal control of my finances. My blood ran cold. If they succeeded, I'd have no protection at all. They could drain every penny I had, and I'd be powerless to stop them. "I have to go," Emily said. "I'll talk to you later." "Love you too, babe." She hung up and walked into the Kit Whitmore, stopping short when she saw me standing there. "Oh. Mom. I didn't know you were here. How long have you been?" "Long enough," I said. My voice was steady, though my heart was hammering in my chest. "We need to talk, Emily." Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? But then her expression smoothed into concern. Of course, Mom. Is everything okay? You look upset. Don't, I said. Don't do that. Don't pretend you care about my feelings when you've been stealing from me. Her face went pale. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I set down my tea with a shaking hand. I heard you. The other day, with Mr. McDonald's. You gave him my credit card. You told him I wouldn't notice, that I have more than enough money. Emily opened her mouth, then closed it again. I could see her mind working, trying to come up with an explanation, a justification, a lie. It's not what it sounded like, she finally said. Father just needed to borrow. Borrow? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You don't borrow something without asking first. You don't use someone else's credit card without their permission. That's called stealing, Emily. Theft. Mom, you're overreacting. Am I? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I checked my accounts, Emily. I've seen all the charges. Thousands of dollars. Thousands. Half of my retirement savings are gone. Money I worked my entire life for. Money you and Daniel and Mr. McDonald's have been helping yourselves to while I smiled and played the grateful houseguest. Tears started streaming down Emily's face. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. It just got out of control. Father said it would be fine, that you had plenty, that you'd want to help family. Help? You think this was helping? The anger was flooding through me now, hot and fierce. You didn't ask for help. You took. You stole. You betrayed my trust. I gave you everything, Emily. Everything. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I sold my mother's jewelry so you could have a laptop. I paid for your wedding. I helped with your house. And this is how you repay me? I know, I know. Emily was sobbing now. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. But we needed money, and Father said. I don't care what Mr. McDonald said. I shouted. He's not your mother. I am. And you chose him over me. You chose his manipulation and his greed over the woman who sacrificed everything for you. Mom, please. And just now I heard you on the phone. Talking about how I'm paranoid. How old people get suspicious. How you need to get power of attorney so I can't interfere anymore. My voice broke on that word. Interfere with what? Your plan to steal the rest of my money? Emily's face crumpled. No, that's not, Mom, I would never. You already did. I was shaking now, years of suppressed anger and hurt pouring out. You already betrayed me. You already stole from me. You already lied to me over and over again. Why should I believe anything you say now? The commotion had drawn Daniel and Mr. McDonald's, who must have been in the house without me knowing. They appeared in the Kid Whitmore doorway, both looking alarmed. What's going on here? Daniel asked. Your mother-in-law is upset, Mr. McDonald said, his voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps she should sit down. Susan, you're being irrational. Don't you dare, I said, turning to face him. Don't you dare call me irrational. You manipulated my daughter into stealing from me. You used my credit card without permission. You've been treating my life savings like your personal investment fund. Mr. McDonald's expression hardened. I don't appreciate these accusations. I've done nothing wrong. In a family, resources should be shared. You have more than enough money for your needs. It's selfish to hoard it when your children are struggling. Struggling? I stared at him in disbelief. You drive a car worth more than my entire savings. You have a vacation home. You're a wealthy man. And you call me selfish? My wealth is my own business, he said coldly. What matters is that Daniel and Emily need help, and you're in a position to provide it. A good mother would want to help her child. A good mother? I repeated. The words hit me like a slap. I've been a good mother my entire life. I sacrificed everything for Emily. But apparently, that's not enough for you people. You don't want a good mother. You want a piggy bank you can smash open whenever you need cash. This is ridiculous, Mr. MacDonald said. You're making wild accusations based on misunderstandings. Perhaps you're not thinking clearly. At your age, memory issues can. Stop it. My voice was ice. I know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to make me doubt myself, to make me think I'm confused or senile so you can justify taking control of my finances. But I'm not confused. I'm not forgetful. I'm not incompetent. I know exactly what you've done, and I have proof. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app, showing them the screen with all the unauthorized charges highlighted. Proof. Bank statements. Documented theft. If I wanted to, I could report all of you to the police right now. Emily gasped. Daniel went pale. But Mr. MacDonald's just narrowed his eyes at me. You won't do that, he said. You wouldn't put your own daughter in jail. You're bluffing. Maybe I am, I said. Or maybe I'm just tired enough of being used to it that I don't care anymore. Want to test me? Mom, please, Emily begged. Please don't do this. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll pay you back. Every penny. Just please don't involve the police. Think about Tommy. He needs his mother. The mention of my grandson made my chest ache. Tommy. My sweet, innocent grandson who had nothing to do with any of this. Would I really be willing to hurt him by having his mother arrested? You should have thought about Tommy before you decided to commit fraud, I said quietly. But no. I'm not going to call the police. Not because you deserve mercy, but because Tommy deserves a mother, even one who's betrayed her own. Relief flooded Emily's face. Thank you. Thank you so much. I promise I'll. I'm not finished, I interrupted. I'm not calling the police, but I am leaving. Today. I found another place to live, and I'm moving out. Mom, you don't have to do that, Emily said. We can work this out. We're family. Family, I repeated bitterly. You keep using that word like it means something to you. But family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't lie and manipulate and betray. You want to know what family means to me? It means I gave you life. I gave you everything I had. I loved you unconditionally. And you repaid me by treating me like an ATM. This is absurd, Mr. MacDonald said. Where exactly do you think you're going to go, Susan? You're 63 years old with no job and limited income. You need to be realistic. You need us. No, I said. I don't need you. I don't need any of you. I need peace. I need dignity. I need to be somewhere where I'm valued as a person, not as a source of money. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice taking on a threatening edge. You're upset right now, not thinking clearly. But if you do this, if you leave and try to cause trouble, I have lawyers. Very good lawyers. We can make things very difficult for you. I met his eyes steadily. Is that a threat? It's a reality, he said. You're not as sharp as you used to be. Anyone can see that. If we had to, we could make a very convincing case that you're not competent to manage your own affairs. Especially given some of the erratic decisions you've been making lately. The room went silent. Emily looked horrified. Daniel looked sick. And I felt a cold fury settle over me like a blanket of ice. You would try to have me declared incompetent, I said slowly. You would destroy my reputation and take away my rights just to keep access to my money. Mr. MacDonald shrugged. I would do what's necessary to protect my son's interests. And to protect you from yourself, of course. Someone in your condition needs supervision. There is nothing wrong with my condition except that I was stupid enough to trust you people, I said. But I'm done with that now. And just so we're clear, I've already consulted with a lawyer. I have documentation of every unauthorized charge. I have witnesses who can testify to my competence. And if you try anything, to harass me or manipulate me or take control of my finances, I will not only report you to the police, I will make sure everyone knows what you've done. Your friends. Your business associates. Everyone. It was a bluff, mostly. I did have documentation and I had spoken to a lawyer, but I didn't have witnesses lined up or a comprehensive legal strategy. But Mr. MacDonald's didn't know that. And I could see from the flicker in his eyes that my words had hit home. Men like him cared about their reputation. The threat of public exposure was more powerful than any legal action could be. This conversation is over, I said. I'm going to my room to finish packing. I'll be out of here within the hour. Emily, if you ever want a relationship with me again, if you ever want me to be part of Tommy's life, you need to think long and hard about what you've done and who you want to be. Because right now, I don't recognize you as the daughter I raised. I turned and walked out of the Kit Whitmore, my legs shaking but somehow carrying me forward. Behind me, I heard Emily burst into fresh sobs and Daniel trying to comfort her. I heard Mr. MacDonald saying something in a low, angry voice. I didn't care. I just kept walking. In my room, I closed the door and leaned against it, my whole body trembling. I'd done it. I'd confronted them. I stood up for myself. But God, it hurt. It hurt so much. I called Linda with shaking hands. Can you come now? I asked. I need to leave now. I'm already in the car, she said. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes felt like an eternity. I finished throwing my remaining things into bags, working quickly, trying not to think about what I was leaving behind. Not just physical things, but my daughter. My grandson. The family I dreamed of having. There was a soft knock on my door. Mom? Emily's voice, small and broken. I opened the door. She was standing there alone, her face blotchy from crying, her eyes red and swollen. I'm so sorry, she whispered. You're right about everything. I let Father manipulate me. I got caught up in his ideas about investments and opportunities and building wealth. He made it seem so reasonable, like we were just making smart use of available resources. But that's no excuse. I betrayed you. I stole from you. I was a terrible daughter. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that I forgave her, that we could fix this. But I couldn't. Because it wasn't okay. And I wasn't sure I did forgive her. And I didn't know if we could fix it. I love you, Emily, I said. I will always love you because you're my daughter. But love isn't enough right now. You hurt me in ways I didn't know I could be hurt. And I need time. I need space. I need to heal. Can I call you? She asked. Can we talk? Eventually, I said. But not now. Not for a while. I need to figure out who I am without you. I've spent my whole life being your mother, and I need to learn how to be just Susan again. What about Tommy? Her voice cracked. Will I ever get to see you with him? That question made my eyes burn with tears. Tommy. My sweet grandson. The thought of not seeing him grow up, of missing his childhood, of losing that relationship, it was agony. I don't know, I said honestly. I hope so. I want to be part of his life. But that depends on you. On whether you can truly change. On whether you can show me that you respect me as a person, not just see me as a source of money. A car horn beeped outside. Linda. I have to go, I said. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Mom. I really am sorry. For everything. I picked up my bags and walked past her without another word. Down the stairs, past Daniel who was standing in the living room looking shell-shocked, past Mr. MacDonald's who was glaring at me with barely concealed fury. I walked out that door and didn't look back. Linda helped me load my things into her car. She didn't ask questions, just gave me a tight hug and said, "Let's get you home." Home. Her guest house would be my home now. A studio apartment behind a friend's house. Such a small space after a lifetime of working and building and dreaming of a comfortable retirement. But as we drove away from Emily's house, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Freedom. Like I'd been carrying a massive weight and had finally set it down. The guest house was small but cozy. Linda had cleaned it thoroughly and even put fresh flowers on the little table by the window. There was a kitchenette with a 2-burner stove, a bathroom with a shower, and a main room that served as a bedroom and living area combined. It was maybe a quarter of the size of my old apartment. But it was mine. My space. Where no one would use me or manipulate me or steal from me. Thank you, I said to Linda, and then I burst into tears. All the emotions I'd been holding back, the anger, the hurt, the grief, the relief, came pouring out in great, heaving sobs. Linda held me while I cried. She didn't tell me it would be okay or that things would work out. She just held me and let me cry until I had no tears left. The first few weeks were hard. Harder than I'd expected. I had to adjust to living alone again, to cooking for one, to the silence. I had to fight against the urge to call Emily, to check on Tommy, to fall back into the familiar patterns of being a mother and grandmother. I had to grieve. Not just for the money I'd lost, but for the relationship I'd lost. For the daughter I thought I had. For the family I believed we were. Some days were darker than others. Some days I wondered if I'd made a mistake leaving. Maybe I should have tried harder to work things out. Maybe I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. Maybe I should call Emily and tell her to forget everything, that we could start over. But then I'd remember her words. She won't notice. She has more than enough. That casual dismissal of my worth, my awareness, my right to my own money. And I'd remember Mr. MacDonald's threats, his attempt to paint me as incompetent, his willingness to destroy me to protect his access to my finances. And I'd know I'd made the right choice. Linda was a godsend during those weeks. She'd invite me over for dinner, include me in her book club, and introduce me to her friends. She helped me remember that I was more than just a mother, more than just a source of money. I was Susan. A person with value and interests and a life of my own. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I joined a community center and took up pottery. I volunteered at the local library. I went to the movies by myself and didn't feel lonely. I discovered that I actually liked my own company. My finances stabilized. Without the constant drain of Emily and Daniel's expenses, my savings stopped disappearing. I created a strict budget and stuck to it. I met with a financial advisor who helped me invest what was left in a way that would provide steady income for the rest of my life. It wasn't as much as I'd hoped to have at this age, but it was enough. I would be okay. Emily tried to contact me several times in those first few weeks. Texts. Emails. Voicemails. She was sorry. She wanted to talk. She missed me. She needed to explain. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I needed the silence. I needed to heal without being pulled back into her orbit, without risking being manipulated again. Then, about 6 weeks after I'd left, I got a different kind of message. A letter in the mail, handwritten on nice stationery. I recognized Emily's handwriting immediately. My hand shook as I opened it. "Dear Mom," it began. "I know you asked for space, and I'm trying to respect that. But I needed to write this down, even if you never respond. I've been going to therapy. I should have gone years ago, but Father always said therapy was for weak people. He said we didn't need help from strangers, that family handles things internally. But I realize now that his ideas about family were toxic. He taught Daniel and me that family means controlling each other, using each other, that love equals access and possession. I let him convince me that your money was family money. That's because you're my mother, what's yours should be mine. That I was entitled to it because of everything you'd sacrificed for me. He made it seem logical, reasonable even. But it wasn't. It was theft. It was abuse. I'm not writing to ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing to tell you that I'm working on changing. I've cut off contact with Father. Daniel and I are going to marriage counseling too, because his manipulation of both of us nearly destroyed our marriage on top of destroying my relationship with you. I've sold some things, jewelry, electronics, things I bought with your money, and I've started a payment plan to pay you back. It will take years, but I'm committed to it. I've enclosed the first check. I miss you. Tommy misses you. He keeps asking where Grandma went. I don't know what to tell him. But I understand if you never want to see me again. I destroyed your trust, and I can't expect you to give it back. I love you, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything. Emily. Inside the envelope was a check for $500. I sat at my little table, holding that check and that letter, and I cried. Not the angry, bitter tears from before. Different tears. Sad tears. Hopeful tears. Complicated tears. $500. It was such a small fraction of what had been taken. But it was something. A gesture. Evidence that maybe, just maybe, Emily really was trying to change. I didn't cash the check right away. I put it in my refrigerator where I could see it every day and think about what it meant. More letters came over the following weeks. Emily told me about therapy, about the things she was learning about herself, about codependency and manipulation and the toxic dynamics Mr. McDonald's had created. Telling me about Daniel's realization that his father had been controlling him his whole life. Telling me about Tommy's latest milestones and funny things he'd said. She never pushed for a response. Never demanded forgiveness. Just kept writing, kept sending checks, kept trying to show me that she was different now. 3 months after I'd left, I finally wrote back. Just a short note. Thank you for the letters. I'm glad you're working on yourself. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I appreciate your efforts. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was an acknowledgement. A tiny crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. The process of rebuilding trust was slow. Painfully slow. We exchanged letters for months before I agreed to a phone call. The phone call was awkward, full of long silences and careful words. But it was a start. 6 months after I'd left, I agreed to meet Emily for coffee. Just the two of us, in a neutral public place. I was so nervous I almost canceled 3 times. She looked different. Thinner. More tired. But also more present somehow, like she was actually there instead of just performing the role of dutiful daughter. Thank you for coming, she said. We talked for an hour. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She told me more about therapy, about the patterns she was working to break. I told her about my new life, my pottery class, and my volunteer work. It wasn't comfortable. There was still so much hurt between us. But it was honest. Real. That mattered. "Can I see Tommy?" I asked finally. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I was hoping you'd ask. He misses you so much." "But Mom. I understand if you need more time. I understand if you want to see him without me there. Whatever you need." "No," I said. "I want you there. Because part of rebuilding trust means letting you be part of these moments. But Emily, if you ever betray me like that again." "I won't," she said fiercely. "I swear on Tommy's life, I won't. My therapist has me on a strict accountability plan. Daniel and I don't even have joint accounts anymore because I need to prove to myself that I can respect boundaries. Father has been completely cut out of our lives. We're doing everything we can to be better." I wanted to believe her. And maybe, with time, I would. That visit led to others. Carefully supervised at first, always on my terms, always with clear boundaries. I saw Tommy and tried not to cry at how much he'd grown. I visited their house but never stayed long. I accepted dinner invitations but always drove myself so I could leave whenever I wanted. Emily kept sending those checks. $500 a month, every month. It would take her nearly 3 years to pay back half of what had been taken, and that was assuming she could keep it up. But she was trying. That effort meant something. Mr. McDonald's tried to contact me once, about 8 months after I'd left. A letter from his lawyer demanding I drop all false accusations and threatening legal action for defamation. I showed it to David Whitmore, my lawyer friend. He laughed. "He's got nothing. He's just trying to intimidate you. Ignore it." I did. And nothing ever came of it. Mr. McDonald apparently decided I wasn't worth the risk of a legal battle that would expose what he'd done. It's been a year now since I left. A year of rebuilding my life, my identity, my sense of self-worth. A year of slowly, carefully, deciding whether my relationship with Emily can be salvaged. I'm living in a small apartment now, not Linda's guest house. I can afford it with my budget and my social security. It's not much, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every decoration, I chose it. I paid for it with my own money that no one else has access to. I see Emily and Tommy regularly now. We have dinner once a week. She still sends those checks. We're both still in therapy, separately and, recently, together in family counseling. It's hard work. Some sessions leave me drained and angry and wondering why I'm bothering. But then I see the way Emily looks at me now. With respect. With genuine love, not the love that comes with expectations and demands. With the understanding that I'm a person, not just a role in her life. And I see Tommy growing up, and I think about how I don't want to miss any more of his childhood because of his mother's mistakes. He deserves to have his grandmother in his life. I deserve to have my grandson in my life. So we keep trying. We keep working. We keep building something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. But I've learned something important through all of this. Something I wish I'd understood earlier in my life. At 63 years old, I learned the hardest truth: love without respect becomes exploitation. It doesn't matter if it's your daughter, your spouse, your parents, your friends. If someone loves you but doesn't respect you, if they see you as a resource instead of a person, that's not real love. That's the use. Real love honors boundaries. Real love asks permission. Real love would never make you feel small or stupid or invisible. I spent my whole life confusing sacrifice with love. I thought that the more I gave, the more I proved I loved Emily. But what I actually taught her was that my needs didn't matter. That I was an inexhaustible well she could draw from forever. That there would never be consequences for taking advantage of me. I was wrong. And she was wrong to take advantage of my weakness. But we're both learning better now. She's learning to give instead of just take. And I'm learning to hold my ground instead of just giving. I may have less money now than I'd hoped to have at this age. That money I lost, that half of my retirement savings, is gone. I'll never get it all back, no matter how faithfully Emily sends those checks. I'll have to live more frugally than I planned. I'll have to be careful with every dollar. But I have my peace. I have my dignity. I have my self-respect. I have boundaries that I enforce without guilt. I have a life that's mine, not just an extension of someone else's needs. And you know what? That's priceless. That's worth more than any amount of money in a bank account. I wake up in my little apartment every morning, and I don't feel anxious about what charges might appear on my credit card. I don't feel used or invisible or taken for granted. I feel like myself. Like Susan. Not just mom, not just grandma, not just a source of money. Susan. A whole person with value that has nothing to do with what I can provide for others. That's what I want you to take away from my story. Whether you're young or old, whether you're dealing with family or friends or romantic partners, know your worth. Your worth is not determined by what you can give others. Your worth is inherent. You matter. Your needs matter. Your boundaries matter. Don't let anyone, no matter how much you love them, convince you that protecting yourself is selfish. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for saying no. Don't let anyone treat you like an object instead of a person. And if you find yourself in a situation like I was in, where someone you love is exploiting you, get out. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible. I know you'll be terrified of losing that relationship. But staying in a situation where you're being used and abused will destroy you from the inside out. You deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. I found mine at 63. Better late than never, right? But I wish I'd found it sooner. I wish I'd set boundaries earlier. I wish I'd recognized the warning signs before I lost half my savings. So please, learn from my mistakes. Don't wait until you're broken to start protecting yourself. Don't wait until you've been betrayed to start demanding respect. Do it now. Today. In whatever relationships need it. Your dignity isn't something you buy. It's something you protect. It's something you guard fiercely because once it's gone, it's so hard to get back. I'm still rebuilding mine. I probably will be for a long time. But every day gets a little easier. Every day I feel a little stronger. Every day I remember more clearly who Susan Parker is beyond the roles I've played for other people. And that journey of rediscovery? That's been the most valuable thing I've done in years. If my story touched you, please click the like button, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. But more importantly, if any of this resonated with you, if you see yourself in my story, please take action. Talk to someone. Set a boundary. Protect yourself. Don't wait until it's too late. Remember, dignity isn't something you buy. It's something you protect. And you're worth protecting. Always. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about what happened to me. And thank you for hopefully learning from my pain so you don't have to experience your own. My name is Susan Parker. I'm 63 years old. And I'm finally learning how to put myself first.